Thank you everyone for joining us today for the second episode of the Crocodylus podcast. Here today with Hannah Thompson, the survivor of saltwater crocodile attack in 2004. So Hannah, could you please take me back to the day of the attack, please?
Yeah, we were out on the boat. At the time I was 11 years old, and we were living on a island very near the tip of Cape York. It was a privately owned island that was a sort of small resort, five-star Robinson Crusoe pole homes, sort of maximum 10 guests at a time. We had a couple of families staying with us, and they had a couple of kids, and we'd gone out. We took the boat out every day to do whatever they wanted to do, from fishing, beachcombing, whatever. um we were in Margaret Bay, which is a popular bay nearby for prawn trawlers to anchor in, because it's quite deep and protected from weather and things like that, so they often overnight there. And we just dropped a line. We'd been fishing in the bay, but our anchor had been caught on we dragged it up a little bit and discovered it was a bunch of steel cables that some prawn trawler had obviously just dumped into the bay rather than deal with. So we were tangled in that, and we sort of dragged them into the shallows, where Roy, the owner of the island and the boat, set about cooking some lunch for the guests on the boat. And his son, who was 10, and me, who was 11, went for a swim with a couple of the kids who were staying there as well. We went for a swim to sort of untangle the anchor and just, muck around, blow off some steam, as you do when you're 10 and 11.
Yep.
It was a big long beach. We would have been a fair way offshore, but it was fairly shallow still. I don't remember it being above my waist. We swam and mucked around, jumped off the side of the boat, splashed. Would have made a hell of a noise, definitely.
Yep.
Any crocodile there would have known we were in the area pretty immediately. I didn't think of it at the time. I trusted Roy. He was a crocodile hunter from back in the day from New Guinea, and he knew the crocodiles better than anyone. So I just 11-year-old trusted the adult that I was with to keep an eye on the water. It was, big open clear water, sandy bottom, blue. We often swim in these places and say we'll keep an eye out, we'll have a look out, we'll see anything that comes up. But obviously, that's not always going to be the case, because this was a 12-foot crocodile that managed to grab me on the arm. So yeah, we were swimming and about to hop out. I think we were mucking around trying to get up, not be the last one in the water, getting up the back of the boat. And one of the guests' sons was in the water in front of me, and something grabbed me on the arm, and I thought it was actually the owner's son who jumped off the side of the boat to get involved in whatever was going on the back steps. And so yeah, I reached over and I put my hand on it, and I literally put my hand around the snout, the nose of this crocodile that was just chomped onto my wrist. I don't remember what happened next, but the Roy, who was cooking lunch, says that I screamed, and that he knew that it was like a life or death scream. He knew something terrible was happening. So the dad of the boy who was in front of me reached down over the side of the boat. It's a 40-foot jet boat, so it's, a fair bit to reach down, grabbed his son by the shoulders, and literally just wrenched him onto the boat. It's superhero dad strength. And he's ended up with these amazing claw marks down the middle of his back, which are pretty cool. I think I might show a photo of that at some stage. And I'm still there with this 12-foot crocodile hanging off my arm, and Roy has leapt off the side of the boat, landed astride the crocodile, smashed onto his back, and gone for the eyes straight away, and one hand missed, the other one gouged into its eye socket. He said, he was aiming for that, so he gouged pretty deep. Also landing on its back probably gave it a shock, and it just let go and took off, which was super, super lucky for me.
Yeah, incredibly lucky for you, 100%. You had you sent me a photo. Was it the guy? He's on the beach with Croc. He kind of has his fingers in his eye. Is that
Yeah. So that's Roy. He was actually 60.
Oh
A
wow.
60-year-old man. I mean, he's fairly fit. He lives on an island, runs a resort. But yeah, yeah, he was the one that I trusted to put me in that position. And looking back, I definitely shouldn't have been allowed to swim there. Um, but at the end of the day, he did also save my life. Yeah.
Yeah, he did 100%. It's very unfortunate though that those people put steel cables on the bottom of the ocean, which is hugely illegal. And why do that?
Unfortunately, living up on this remote island, like I didn't think about it back then. This is just, I was brought up fairly environmentally conscious, but when we were living there, it was sort of like this is the lifestyle we're living in and this is what you do. And there was a lot of laws, safety, things that were just looked over, burning off of rubbish, fishing in protected zones, all sorts of things like that unfortunately it's such a remote area, we can't police all of that. So dumping steel cables over the side of a thing is another unfortunate pollution that we just can't we can't police it up there.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. And I was actually watching a thing the other day that lead is a threat to Nile crocodiles over in Africa.
True. Yeah.
Lead being sinkers, basically
Yeah.
fishing sinkers. People wouldn't think of it. I haven't thought of it, and I was like, that's absolutely crazy.
Or actually, to jump ahead in the story a little bit, national parks did come and bait and shoot the crocodile. We checked it was the right one with his imprints on some cardboard against my wounds. And when we cut him open, he did have a like a plastic roll of copper wire in his stomach. So he's obviously ingested something somehow.
Yeah, well,
Again, being in the middle of nowhere. This is off Cape Granville, which is sort of the first cape down on the right-hand side of
yeah,
Tip York.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's absolutely nuts. I was very lucky to get away with just a couple of puncture wounds. And considering the size of him and the power, I really shouldn't have got away with so little. So I think he was being quite gentle with me, really, and was just as surprised as I was when I screamed in his face. Um, we do think that the prawn trawlers had been feeding him carcasses off the back of the boat, dead fish, whatever they had caught, probably. So he was used to scavenging off the back of the boats and getting dead fresh meat. So it's highly likely that he thought that I was another floating bit of meat that would just be an easy meal. Which is why we think he didn't, roll, take my arm off, drown me, any of the numerous things that he could have done, even break my arm with the force of his jaw. I've got 6 puncture wounds,
Yeah,
um, and a tiny bit of nerve damage is all I've come away with, and some pretty cool scars.
yeah, definitely right. Because the drop ratio of a salt crocodile is 3,700 pounds per square inch, or
Yeah,
16,460 newtons of bite force. And that's compared to us is 150 to 200 psi, 890 newtons.
yeah, yeah.
Tigers generate around 1,000 psi, 4,450 newtons. So, but their bite force is nearly 4 times that of a lion, which is absolutely crazy. So yeah,
And I was 11 years old.
yeah,
That could have snapped with no time at all. So it really is a little bit unfortunate that he was sort of accustomed to humans because of us, but we had interacted with him and trained him to basically come up to the boats and feed, and then he died because of it, because I was then allowed to swim in that area, and he made a mistake, yeah,
yeah,
and died for his sins.
yeah. That's right. Well, unfortunately, well, the DES, Department of Environmental Services in Queensland, like dub those animals like that come into close proximity to humans, especially after feeding them, hanging around boat ramps and stuff. They call them problem crocodiles, and 10 times out of 10, they removed, shot, or killed. Taken to a zoo farm is not such a big thing at the moment because there's only so many zoos and farms in Australia. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
unfortunate. It's an unfortunate thing, and obviously they are trying to do their best at the moment to avoid having to remove crocodiles. I know one thing they're doing is hazing. Hazing is when they get non-live rounds into a gun and they see the crocodile around and make the crocodile fear the human. And that's
Yep.
why shooting the live
Yep.
rounds at it. And yeah, obviously it doesn't hurt the crocodile, but it makes them scared enough to know to not come near us. So that means if they see
At,
a person with like fish frames, like dumping the fish frames in the water, the crocodile won't come
yeah.
near the person. So yeah,
At the end of the day, they're not looking at us for a food source. They're not trying to eat humans. Their behavior is not showing us that, but because we are giving them easy meals, because we think they're interesting and we want to see them eat, we want to, help them out. We are actually encouraging these interactions, and I do think that a little bit more education about making sure why we keep that distance and why we don't interact with them is really important, not only with crocodiles but all wildlife. We shouldn't be feeding them, we shouldn't be interacting with their natural system.
yeah, that's exactly right. Especially when there's so many zoos in Australia you can go to. You can go to Crocodile's Cove, feed them. Hartley's Crocodile Farm, Dreamworld. I don't know, there's two places, one place in the territory that you can go to. I'd probably much prefer to go to those places than get busted and hit with a fine. So it's
Yeah, 100%, and risk the life of the crocodile that you're interacting with as well. This crocodile was baited, and it wouldn't have been a nice death. He would have been baited. I think he was shot and then speared in the back of the head. So, it wasn't a slow, smooth thing. These are big animals with tough skin, and it's hard to get a clean, easy kill, especially in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's again very unfortunate for the crocodile. But I have some visuals up for you of photos of the crocodile and the aftermath of what happened to the crocodile. So I've talked about that. So what are your views on crocodiles now?
My views on crocodiles honestly have never really changed. I've always been a wildlife lover and an environment lover, and as far as I'm concerned, I was the actions of the humans that me and the ones I was around put me in his place, and he wasn't really left with a choice. It's not his fault, and I hold no resentment towards him for that or any of the crocodiles. They are amazing, amazing animals that we still honestly are learning about every single day, and I have a lot of respect for their place and their right to have a life in our world without us interfering with them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's so it's really good that you say that because most people would not say that after they've been attacked by a crocodile. So
I guess I'm a very forgiving person. I also on national parks probably wouldn't like me to say this, and as I mentioned, we possibly broke some rules when we lived up there, but I did eat him. So at the end of the day, I got my retribution,
that's right. You
and
did.
I'm not going to hold a grudge.
You call it that's full circle of life, that one.
Yeah, yeah. Eat me and I'll eat you.
Yeah. Crocodile meat isn't too bad. I will admit I've eaten it. So for the guys that are full greenies, but I think you gotta try it once or twice, and it's just like me, it was really like just nicer chicken in a way, I think. That's what it tastes like to
To
me.
be honest, I only had a couple of little fried pieces, and I only ate it because he ate me. It was the principle at that point. I was
Yeah.
offered a plate, and I definitely ate a couple of pieces just to say that I had.
Well, when I done my crocodile course, I was offered crocodile burgers and stuff every day, and I was like, nah,
Yeah,
I'll just have the chicken kebabs. That was
yeah, yeah.
too much menu option up there, but I was just like, nah, I don't think I want to eat crocodiles. I've been handling crocs all day. I don't think I want to eat one today. I'm all good.
I'll tell you what though, I don't think I could have got any fresher crocodile meat
No,
from
definitely
anywhere
not.
really.
No, definitely not. Not, and you got the barbed wire taste in it as well, or the steel wire
The
taste.
copper white. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
You mentioned the contents of his stomach. Actually, there were also a couple of probably inch and a half, 2 inch flat stones that he'd swallowed, obviously
yeah,
to aid with digestion.
yeah.
Also a couple of stingray barbs,
Wow,
interestingly. So he'd eaten
that's pretty
them.
cool.
And the thing that we loved as kids was a black hair ball of pig fur.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, which was just really I mean, national parks cut open his stomach to make sure there weren't any other body parts in there, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was really fascinating for us kids to see what came out of that as well. And it actually ended up being a massive educational experience, not just for the four of us kids that lived on the island, but there was one of the families was from Germany and the other one was from Brisbane. And it was an amazing experience for them as well to learn about this animal.
Yeah, it's very cool. For those at home that are listening, they can't digest hair. So yeah,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bit
Like
hey,
cats, I guess.
yeah, bit more of a scaly, deadly cat for sure.
Yeah, a little bit. You can't imagine a crocodile coughing up a fur ball the same way you can a cat.
No, we quite the scene. So why do you believe that majority of Australians think culling is okay? But not only for bats, but for other animals as well, such as kangaroos. And I believe people want to cull bats. Is that correct? Or am I wrong there?
Bats, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
bats 100%. Unfortunately, the patterns that bats keep present a very sort of noisy and smelly image to the world when you are around their colonies. So they live in a large group, but every night they disperse. They fly over 100 kilometers pollinating and seed dispersing around the area. So when you actually split them up at night, they're not as dense as they look, but when you see a bat colony, they can be quite noisy and smelly. Um, but so are we when you look at it.
Mm.
The crocodiles and the bats both have a lot of fear surrounding them in the world, and a lot of that doesn't actually come from fact. It comes from stories and feelings that we have about these animals. So for both crocodiles and for bats, I think people at the end of the day don't understand them and are afraid of them. And that's what leads us to anger and defense, a little bit of mob mentality. We get together and say they are a threat to us, so we must take them out. When at the end of the day, if we had a little bit more understanding, understood their social structure and the way their mind works, the way they interact with the world, can lead to a lot of compassion, but also understanding how they have their own role in the ecosystem. Um, Everything plays its own little place. For example, the bats are essential for our long range pollination. Um, and a lot of people growing up in Australia with these native animals don't know that. But if we understood their role, we might have a little bit more patience for them and let them have their space in our world rather than trying to control it all.
Yes, exactly, 100%. Yesterday we were talking about the whole native plant issue in the front yard and why people do see a lot of bats more in the suburbs. And can you
Yeah,
elaborate more why that happens?
yeah. So because bats are such large pollinators, they are really they're foraging animals. They travel large distances at night, feeding on these trees and these fruits. And we are seeing more land clearing. We are seeing more unhealthy forest, droughts, things like that. And so these animals are not only seeing starvation events, which is a horrible thing to see, but they're searching for food in areas that maybe aren't so natural to them. We often settle around places with a lot of water, and then we grow these beautiful gardens and we look after our trees. Councils, environment groups really encourage that people plant natives in their backyard, which is fantastic. We do want to help the pollinators. We want to feed these foraging animals, but maybe some information that needs to be put out with that is that bats are also foraging nectar eaters and fruit eaters. And as they are not able to find as much food out in our forests, the richest source of food is often going to be in our beautifully manicured trees and grevilleas and things like that. So we're getting these bats coming into people's backyards. They're noisy, and we do have a lot of fear and misinformation surrounding them. So then it's just causing more animosity between us and the bats because they're coming into our space when in fact we are creating this environment that encourages them and almost calls them to us.
Yeah, but that's very right. It's a lot of misconception around bats, what we believe in. again, go back to crocodiles that, we watch all these movies about them, or believe what we see in the movies is true, like Lake Placid, Rogan. It's not,
Yeah, not only that, but they are so almost alien to us because they're not mammals. They're reptiles. They live in the water. They have big scary teeth. And a lot of mammals and things we can look at their body language and understand them a bit more. But crocodiles really do take a little bit more understanding, which is really why I think it's important to have that sort of advocacy for them. Um, like the work that Solar Whisper does, we were talking about that. David White, he educates the public online and through his tours, but a lot of what he does personifies the crocodiles in a way that a lot of scientific research might not. And while that may not be helpful when we're looking at data, when we're looking at connecting to these animals and, raising social awareness of their social systems and the way they live. I think it's really important to share the work that he does and people like him to understand these guys on a personal level, because that again just leads to compassion and more patience for them.
yeah, that's exactly right. I think it's also about people having the opportunity to get these experiences with crocodiles and actually got themselves instead of like having their own opinions handed down to them or opinions of other people, actually go out there and experience this yourself. Like I recommend going to Solar Whisper and doing the boat tour. There's a Proserpine River boat tour. There's Australia Zoo. There's zoos on the coast of Queensland. There's zoos in Northern Territory. There's zoos in WA. Go out there and speak to the actual people that actually know what they're talking about before.
At Hartley's, you can go and you can see crocodiles and you can see bats.
Yeah, well there you go. Even at Hartley's, go see bats at Hartley's. 100%. That's like that's why I think also zoos are important for people to actually understand these animals. And then apart from what you see on the media, like, oh, this crocodile got this person, and it's really G'd up and it's all always fabricated, and you need to go actually touch one, see one, touch one legally, feed one, see one,
Yeah.
read the facts.
Don't go poking wild crocodiles, guys. Like, don't go poking wild snakes, crocodiles. Just stay away from the wildlife.
Yeah.
They're cool.
Yeah. Educate yourself before you have such a negative opinion on these animals. So how would you recommend someone to get into wildlife rehabilitation?
The first step really is just learning about the wildlife in your area. Find out what local wildlife groups there are. Get involved in some of their information groups. A great way to learn and figure out if it's really something you want to dedicate more of your time and effort to is to volunteer with their sort of community engagement projects. So stalls at markets and information nights and things like that often needs people to go along and just interact with the public, present the information, and get the awareness out there. Once you do sort of decide that's definitely a route you want to go down, your local wildlife group will have courses, mentors, all of the donated sort of goods and things to get you started, set you up, and take you through that sort of mentoring process. It's a massive commitment to caring for our wildlife. There's so many facets to it, from manning phone lines, receiving calls for emergencies. You then have to have people available at all times because these animals might be in situations that are dangerous to them or dangerous to humans. So they need rescuing straight away. Once they're rescued, they need first aid. So the more trained you are in providing first aid and the equipment that you've got, you can provide that for them on the spot, or try and get them to a vet, which unfortunately, while a lot of vets do treat wildlife for free, it is only if they have time, and we do have a lot of vet shortages and things, especially in rural areas at the moment. So it's not always possible even to get the animal into a vet. Then you've got the ongoing care, which could go on for months and months later. So it is a massive commitment to looking after these animals, but you don't have to commit to the full thing. There are lots of little ways that you can help your local community, and support the people that do the long-term care and things like that, just by showing up a little bit, community engagement, that sort of thing.
Yep, thank you for that. And what rewarding experiences have you had doing during your time of rehabilitation? If you can name a couple.
It's it's such a hard thing to do if you do focus on the negative. So it's always so important to remember the wins, remember why we do it. I've been part of countless, babies that have been somehow lost from mum. She's dropped the baby, maybe there's a predator around or something like that, and she's unable to get it back. We've been called and we've had to rehydrate this baby, feed it throughout the day, keep it warm. And instead of us having to then raise that little flying fox for 6 months on milk, we can go back the next night, put this bat up in the top of the tree that we found him in, and on those special occasions, mum, who might have been worrying and stressing and still looking for her baby, will actually come back 24 hours later, and pick up this baby. And there's nothing like reuniting that baby with that mum. They spend months together breastfeeding, so it's a very strong connection. And watching them interact with their babies is just absolutely heartwarming. They have one pup at a time, flying foxes. They carry them while they suckle on their nipple under their wing. In the heat stress event that we had a few years ago around Cairns with the spectacled flying foxes, they're a critically endangered species now. We've lost about 80% of their species in the last 20 years. We had so many bats come in from this horrible event that killed a lot of bats, injured a lot of more. They went into a cage overnight. We had some larger babies, and some mums, and we came down the next day, and one of these stressed out mums had two babies slung across her chest. She had actually let this baby, who had obviously lost its mum, it was a larger baby, so it was okay to be by itself, but it had been needing that comfort. And normally a mum would not let anyone else's baby, of any species, a mum will not adopt another baby, especially if she's got one of her own. But this mum had actually allowed this baby to seek that comfort and was double slinging her babies, which was a lot of stress for her, but it was really heartwarming to see.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. That's really good work that you've been doing. So good on you. Thank you for having a voice for bats. And I hope people listening at home have had a bit of opinion change on bats now as to why, as Hannah said before, every single animal is important to the ecosystem.
I'd like to shout out to Tolga Bat Hospital as well. That's where I worked for 5 years alongside the director and the countless volunteers from all over the world that make that place run. If anyone would like to learn more about bats, the Tolga Bat Hospital is the top-rated TripAdvisor activity in the area, and they run a tour through the cages where you get face-to-face with these microbats and megabats and learn a lot more about them.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, which is absolutely necessary. As we said before, that you have to experience the animals face to face before you can make your final judgment call on how bad they are towards us. But I think in the long run, we are worse towards them because we are destroying the environment and they are trying to save their own little environments and ecosystems. So it's a give or take situation with them.
At the end of the day, whether it be crocodiles, bats, what we need is patience and understanding. There's far too much me, this is mine, I need my space, I want my property, I don't want to share it with anyone. And at the end of the day, that's not the way the environment is. It is an ecosystem, and we really need to either let that be or figure out a better way to fit into that so that we can exist in symbiosis with it rather than clash with it so much.
Yeah, that's not exactly right. So I was going to ask you that: have you had many cases, or have you seen much about people interfering with bats in a bad way, illegally?
Unfortunately, even though flying foxes are like essential, they're a keystone species in our forests. We don't have a lot of, not only do we not like them, but we don't have a lot of protection for them at a government level. And yes, it is illegal to do things like shooting them and dispersing them from your property and things like that. We do unfortunately see that all the time. Not only that, but we see people I mean, we had cases in Cairns where people were shooting at the bats with their gel guns and things like that. But even on a government level, councils are able to get permits. Unfortunately, in the season where the mums have babies, now there's a period where these babies are actually completely reliant on mum, but also cannot be carried by mum because they're too big. So they are stuck in these trees, these creche trees, while mum comes backwards and forwards and feeds them until they can learn to fly. Councils are given permits to disperse these bats by so-called non-lethal means, which often include things like lighting fires underneath their trees to stop the mums coming back to the babies in the morning. Charters Towers has used high-pressure hoses. They use bird fright guns and things like that. So yes, the deterrents are the only way the councils have to disperse these bats, but even when it is done legally, it can still be incredibly cruel to these animals. So we really do need to have some more protection for them. And I do think that community awareness and being more patient with them in our spaces can really help with that.
Yeah, it sounds horrible. High pressure hoses and fires under the tree. But it's a very cruel way of dispersing with wildlife. And I'm sure there's 1,000 other options that you could do that would not impact the animal, or then again, just leave the animal alone.
The other thing is, I mean, people travel from all over the world, all of Europe and all of America. They don't have flying foxes. They don't have megabats. So all of those tourists traveling to our area, if we were to, create reserves around these bats where they've decided to roost, like the Cairns dispersal around the city library, we had a colony that lived there. Instead of choosing to embrace that and, create a tourist attraction, a wildlife attraction that would draw more people to the city, we chose to disperse them instead. I think there's other options that we can explore that will help us respect them.
All right, so I think we'll wrap that up now. Thank you for today. Thank you for
No
today.
worries.
We appreciate it.